Robyn Brown, the Queen of We, a masterclass in deflection. Welcome back to my Sister Wives Neovius Update, where we explore the intersections of strategy, identity, and emotional dynamics in complex relationships. Today's spotlight falls on none other than Robyn Brown, a key figure in the Sister Wives universe and the self-styled embodiment of the ideal partner. Let's dive into how Robyn's approach to communication, conflict, and image management subtly reshaped the entire Brown family dynamic, often without saying a single word of direct blame. This isn't just commentary. It's a breakdown of power, perception, and control. Setting the scene, the we game. Let's begin with Robyn's favorite linguistic maneuver, the collective shield. In moments of tension or scrutiny, Robyn rarely refers to herself. It's always we. Whether it's a family decision that hurt someone, a communication breakdown, or a controversial move, it's never "I did this." It's "we need to talk more," or "we didn't mean to make anyone feel left out." It's a classic form of deflection, a strategy where personal accountability dissolves into a shared emotional fog. If everyone is responsible, then no one is truly to blame. And conveniently, that means Robyn never is. This tactic works well in a large, emotionally entangled family. We sounds cooperative. We sounds inclusive. But when wielded strategically, it becomes an invisibility cloak for personal decisions and actions. Robyn the translator, the middleman no one requested. Robyn has long cast herself in the role of interpreter, especially when it comes to Kody. She frequently volunteers to translate his thoughts and emotions to the other wives or even the children, as if understanding him requires a special skill she alone possesses. There have been multiple instances where she's inserted herself into conflicts by saying something like, "Let me be there. I understand how to talk to him." Whether she's comforting a frustrated wife or advising a child, Robyn frames herself as the necessary middle step to get through to Kody. But here's the irony. In therapy sessions and interviews, Robyn has also expressed frustration that Kody gets involved too much in the wives' relationships with one another. The contradiction is clear. On the one hand, she places herself at the center of every emotional conversation. On the other, she laments when others involve him. The reality is, she often is the bridge and the gatekeeper. She gathers information from one wife and conveys it to Kody in her own way, filtered through her lens. And in the end, the narrative that gets delivered often reflects one perspective more than others. The perfect wife persona, now with extra guilt trips. Robyn's public image has been cultivated carefully over the years. She's kind, self-sacrificing, deeply loyal, at least according to the storyline. Whether it's giving thoughtful gifts on camera or making tearful declarations of family unity, she consistently frames herself as the one holding everything together. Take the famous junk journal she gifted Mary. A deeply personal gesture on the surface, shown during a season of emotional strain. But context reveals something else. Mary had previously stated that Robyn hadn't visited her in years. That journal, no matter how sweet, arrived just in time for the cameras. A performance, not necessarily a pattern. This kind of gesture becomes a PR move. It doesn't just say, "I care." It says, "I am the caring one." And when accompanied by emotional expressions and strategic timing, it serves not only to heal relationships, but to shape the narrative. The crown and the curtain. Robyn's plot armor. Here's where things get layered. Robyn's standing in the family often seems untouched by the conflicts that wear down others. Kody regularly holds her up as the example of what a loyal wife should be. He praises her willingness to follow his lead, her kindness, her effort to keep the peace. But here's the issue. This selective praise casts a shadow. It creates a standard that's less about fairness and more about favoritism. When Robyn is positioned as the one who gets it right, the rest are subtly cast as not quite measuring up. It's not just about family roles, it's about identity and influence. Robyn's alignment with Kody becomes a form of insulation. She's rarely the one being questioned, criticized, or sidelined. And that's the danger of this kind of soft power. It's nearly invisible until the impact is felt. Cultural expectations and the idealized wife. Much of Robyn's image echoes a larger cultural script, the polished, perfect woman. One who doesn't argue, always supports, raises the children, and never wavers in her role. Within the context of a plural family, and influenced by traditional norms, this script becomes even that script with precision. Her behavior, language, and public statements all reflect a desire to be seen as the model wife. And when someone is positioned as the model, others are often judged by comparison. That pressure doesn't just affect relationships, it warps them. Christine, Janelle, and Mary each had to navigate the gap between how they wanted to live and what was being expected of them. And over time, that gap became too wide to bridge. The cost of idealization. What happens when one person becomes the example? Others are placed in a losing game. When Kody said he had 100% loyalty from Robyn, it became clear that this wasn't just about feelings. It was about control, about defining love in terms of obedience and alignment. The other wives, each in their own way, pushed back. Christine left. Janelle distanced herself. Mary struggled with alienation. But even in their resistance, they were still living under the weight of that perfect wife ideal. That's the most difficult part of this story, not the arguments or the separation, but the invisible rules everyone was expected to play by. Closing thoughts: why it all matters. Robyn's approach to communication, image, and influence isn't just about her. It's about power dynamics in families, especially those built on non-traditional structures. When one person subtly controls the narrative, the emotional consequences ripple through everyone else. This isn't an attack, it's an analysis. It's a reminder that accountability, transparency, and honesty matter. Because when those things fade, people start to believe they're alone. Or worse, that they're the problem. And that's why it's so important to talk about emotional strategies, especially in families that rely on shared values and shared space. If this breakdown helped you see things in a new light, stick around. Subscribe, share, and let me know your thoughts. Do you think Robyn is simply misunderstood, or is there more going on behind the scenes than meets the eye? Until next time, keep questioning, keep watching, and remember, the truth always leaves breadcrumbs. Sister wives need power in the words we choose. One word can shape a story, shift responsibility, and even redefine relationships. For Robyn Brown, the most controversial figure in the Sister Wives universe, her word of choice isn't me or I know. Her favorite word is we. It's simple, unassuming, inclusive, comforting even. But when used strategically, we can do more than unite. It can conceal. And in the hands of someone as image-conscious and emotionally calculating as Robyn Brown, we becomes a masterstroke of self-preservation. Let's unpack how one small word became the foundation of a public persona, and perhaps the most effective deflection tool in the entire Brown family. Act I, the many faces of we. In nearly every confrontation or emotional moment captured on camera, Robyn rarely claims an individual stance. Instead, she places her feelings, fears, and failures in the collective lap of the family. If there's tension between her and another wife, she doesn't say, "I'm upset." She says, "We need to work through this." If Kody makes a decision that benefits her household, We just did what was best for the family. It's as though the word I has been scrubbed from her vocabulary. This is not accidental. Robyn's use of we is part of a carefully constructed narrative, one where she is never the cause of conflict, only the unfortunate witness to it. It's a pattern repeated so often that it becomes invisible to the casual viewer, but to longtime fans, and perhaps to the other wives, the trick is clear. Robyn doesn't want to be the villain, so she speaks like she's part of a team, always a collective voice, never a singular cause. But here's the rub: when everyone's to blame, no one really is. Especially not her. Act Aya. Translation mode activated. Robyn has also taken on a curious role in the Brown family dynamic, what she seems to view as the Kody translator. Anytime a wife has an issue, Robyn volunteers herself as the bridge, the communicator, the helpful go-between. This happens subtly. Maybe Christine is trying to explain her needs. Maybe Janelle is confronting an unfair situation. Rather than Kody being asked to listen and empathize directly, Robyn often steps in. Maybe what he meant was, or let me help explain where Kody is coming from. She doesn't just interpret, she mediates. And in doing so, she inserts herself into the most sensitive spaces of the other marriages. But was anyone asking for a translator? This tactic allows Robyn to present herself as the peacemaker, the emotionally intelligent wife who just wants harmony. Yet over time, it begins to look less like mediation and more like interference. Her role as the translator conveniently positions her at the emotional center of the family, always needed, always informed, and always in control of the narrative. And when that narrative turns against the other wives, Robyn has the same explanation. We just want peace. Again, we. Act II, the branding of a perfect wife. Robyn Brown's life has unfolded on reality television in the most public way imaginable. But unlike her sister wives, she has clung to an image of perfection that seems less human and more rehearsed. There was the infamous junk journal gifted to Mary, delivered with emotional gravitas and the weight of 1,000 camera angles. On the surface, it was a touching gesture. Underneath, it was performance art. The journal arrived only once the cameras did. Prior to that, years had gone by without a visit. And when Mary later expressed pain about that absence, Robyn's response echoed with that familiar refrain. We were just trying to stay safe. We didn't want to put anyone at risk. We need to be careful. By casting all choices in collective terms, Robyn sidesteps personal accountability. Her lack of connection isn't her fault, it's just what we had to do. No one person is to blame, especially not the one holding the scrapbook. Her brand is built on this kind of calculated sincerity. Robyn is always just trying to love, trying to help, trying to make things work. But by appearing so endlessly effortful, she sets an impossibly high standard, one the other wives are unfairly measured against. Act IV. Loyalty or leverage. In one particularly telling moment, Kody Brown openly states that Robyn is loyal to him, and that's why she's the example. Not because she's the most loving, most independent, or most supportive, but because she's the most loyal. He doesn't demand the other wives become Robyn, but he implies that if they were more like her, they'd still be married to him. This loyalty isn't just a trait, it's Robyn's golden armor. As long as she echoes Kody's thoughts, supports his narrative, and avoids open conflict with him, she remains protected. No matter what drama unfolds, her place is secure. And when others speak up, challenge him, assert independence, Robyn doesn't confront. She laments. We're struggling. We need to do better. She lowers her voice, sheds a tear, and steps aside, never challenging, always supportive. Never I, always we. It's emotional leverage dressed up as emotional intelligence. Act B, the pressure cooker of perfection. But here's where it gets deeper. Robyn isn't operating in a vacuum. The role she plays, the perfect, loyal wife, isn't just her invention. It's also a reflection of the cultural expectations that swirl around women in traditional religious and polygamous communities. There's a long-standing ideal in such cultures: the woman who serves quietly, supports faithfully, and performs motherhood and wifehood with graceful self-erasure. She's not just a partner, she's a pedestal. And Robyn has stepped into that mold seamlessly. Whether she realizes it or not, she's embraced the role of this sacrificial woman so tightly that it has become her entire identity. This makes her sympathetic to some viewers and infuriating to others. Because when a wife speaks up or refuses to follow the mold, she's not just disagreeing, she's threatening the entire ideal. And by contrast, Robyn becomes the martyr. The good wife, the one who just wanted to hold the family together. Act BI, we as weapon. In the polygamous structure, competition isn't a bug, it's a feature. Love is divided. Attention is finite. Time is rationed. Under these conditions, subtle power games become survival tactics. So when Robyn constantly uses we, it isn't just harmless habit. It becomes a linguistic shield. It prevents questions. It avoids blame. And worst of all, it turns individual pain into something vague and communal. Christine is hurt. We're going through a hard time. Janelle is isolated. We need to communicate better. Miri is abandoned. We're all feeling distant. These statements may sound supportive, but they erase the very real differences in how each wife is treated. And they obscure the fact that Robyn's household remains the most stable, the most privileged, and the most favored. In a system that thrives on hierarchy, we becomes the ultimate weapon of soft power. Final act, the consequences of collectivism. By now, the cracks are undeniable. Christine has left. Janelle is finding her own path. Miri has distanced herself from the dream that never became reality. The family, once held together by shared ideals, is fraying at every edge. And yet, Robyn remains. Steady, unchanging, ever devoted. Is she loyal? Or simply the last one left clinging to the story? Because even as the foundations of their plural marriage crumble, Robyn still speaks in we. It's a quiet refusal to admit her own part in the breakdown. She didn't cause this. We just lost our way. But perhaps the greatest tragedy isn't what Robyn did or didn't do. It's what the word we ultimately cost the other women. It cost them their voices. It cost them clarity. It cost them the space to say, "This hurt me," and be heard without their pain being diluted by collective excuses. Conclusion: the danger of disguised unity. Language shapes our reality. And in Robyn Brown's world, unity is a cloak that hides a multitude of personal decisions. Her loyalty may be real. Her love may be sincere. But her constant deflection into we has turned her from a participant into a symbol, one that the other wives could never match, not because they lacked love or commitment, but because they insisted on being individuals within a collective. In the end, perhaps Robyn's greatest act wasn't manipulation. It was mastery of perception. She figured out how to stay central, stay safe, and stay celebrated. All she had to do was trade in me for we, and never look back.